So with stock markets posting their first back-to-back positive weeks for the year, I thought this would be a great time to take a breath, reflect, and see what we've learned. So I certainly knew this year had been rough, having been the person along with my colleagues who put out commentaries such as lessons on volatility, are you calling for a crash, fade your feelings, etc. But even I was a little bit surprised by the stat I came across today that this was the first back-to-back weeks of gains for stock markets in 2022, and for the NASDAQ, which had fallen had fallen 20% into a bear market, first back-to-back weeks of gains since November of last year. So with volatility subsiding for the moment, a little bit of green on the screen, I thought this was a great time for all of us, including myself, who when I woke up this morning thought, maybe it's time to chill out on the volatility of the commentaries a little bit, to reflect. What have we learned? What do times and periods like this in the markets teach us? And how do we get better? So wanted to cover a few things. Again, lessons I've learned in the past, always reflect on, still see how I can improve that are hopefully helpful for you all as well. Number one is just embracing uncertainty. And with that uncertainty that reared its head, particularly on February 24th or March 8th or 14th as the market hit lows, how did you react? Did you let that surprise panic you into doing something? Or even from an emotional standpoint, rob you of a little bit of peace? If you did, how are you going to, again, improve that? What about that moment, knowing such periods happen from time to time, unnerved you so much this go around? Have you started to learn that, again, lows, not to say we ever really know when those happens, but they rarely feel like the end. They usually feel like, oh, this is going to continue on forever. Again, that monster that is recency bias when it comes to investing is usually there trying to guide us to believe that whatever has been going on is going to go on in perpetuity. And again, with that, then understanding that the right action is never the easy one. When you feel like, well, of course I'm called to sell, or of course I'm called to buy, you may want to check those. It may be just the opposite that is really the path to success. Point number two is embracing you can never know it all, regardless of who you are. A lot of times when I'm having conversations with people, again, what I hear about is that all those elements of recency bias, recent price action. Well, hey, the market's been really strong. I think it's probably going to continue to be strong. Or, oh my gosh, have you been paying attention? The market's crashing, and why wouldn't it just continue to do this? And feelings, lots, again, of feelings. Markets don't move on those types of things. In fact, they quite often begin to sniff out and run in counter trends. What I don't, though, and what can be certainly at least a little bit more useful, is hear about history, hear about technical levels, hear about quantitative data. But the real point isn't that the answer necessarily entirely lies in that. It's that no matter how much data you have, no matter how great you get at checking your emotions, you're going to have to walk forward as an investor with the humility of knowing you can never know it all. And even for those of you who are like inside information, certainly that exists. There's some people who know things that we don't know in that manner. But again, I'll remind you of the saying I brought up in the past, which is markets aren't manipulated so much as we as investors can be manipulated. But again, only if we let our emotions run rampant. Lastly is the importance of distinguishing between probabilities and predictions. I had a few of you reach out to be kind and say, hey, kudos, great job. You ducked out and raised a little cash in January 18th, and then you got some of it back in. It was a great call. I don't make calls. I never pretended to make a call. To the degree that we had some lucky timing, I wouldn't say it was entirely luck either, but again, hard work, discipline, as the old adages go, help produce luck, and we'll chalk that up. But at the end of the day, it is about those probabilities. Probabilities around understanding the importance of rebalancing to risk-adjusted returns, which is what we were doing in January. Probabilities of understanding the impact of inflation on cash. A 4% inflation rate over a decade is going to rob you of 32% of your purchasing power. That's a probability of 100% when that occurs. And so, again, not allowing those probabilities to, when they're high, fool us into thinking we can time markets. But by the same token, if the probabilities go against us, something that had relatively low odds but does manifest, doesn't dissuade us from sticking to our process, doesn't cause us to start over second guessing ourselves. So in closing, what do we really need to reflect on? Again, understanding the plans are about probabilities, that sticking to the plan is really what increases those probabilities to their highest level of success, not trying to predict. And in so doing, embrace that uncertainty, embrace the fact that we can't know it all, but most importantly, that none of that is critical to you finding success in your financial lives. If you did panic, if you did make some calls, moves you regret here over the last couple months with all the volatility, what needs to change? And how are you going to bring that change into effect? And who's going to hold you accountable for it? I want to thank you. For me, in large part, it's you. It's my colleagues who hold me accountable. I don't get to do anything in my basement that people don't find out about when it comes to trades. So many of the stories from do-it-yourselfers that I hear that are asking, how do I tell my husband or wife about what I did on E-Trade last night in the portfolio? That accountability is critical for any of us. We all have our emotions, our fears, our goals, our dreams. For those of you who have partnered with us, thank you so much for allowing us to be part of that journey. For the rest of you, we certainly wish you well. And for everyone, hope you found this video of some value. Thanks.